Your memories of the course and how it's changed. You have a 60-year history
Well, I
with
think
the
they
club.
made or quite frankly, I think they made a horrible mistake on the back nine. They used to have this wonderful hole that went deep. Yeah, you wouldn't even know, you're too young. That went deep into the wetlands. In fact, when my son and I were playing, I said, "Where do you see this hole?" And we get up there, and it's this little short, 300-yard hole maybe or whatnot, and not into those swamps. And I don't know why they did that, but it used to be across the road. Actually, it was on the other side of the exit ramp there. There was a whole nother little piece of a golf course over there.
In the mid-'60s, they filled in part of Gray's Creek, the body of water, the tidal creek, on the right side of the course,
right, yeah,
and routed the road alongside and filled in a lot of the marsh. And you're talking about the 12th and the 13th hole, which were at that point
obliterated, right?
Yeah, well, they wove their way through marsh. It was almost like an island green.
It was like being down in the south, like being down at Hilton Head Island. And that's what those holes were like. So, you know, shame on them. I mean, I don't know why in the world, even though they filled in, why would they fill in wetlands like that? That doesn't, you don't hear about that much. They wouldn't do that today, I'll bet you. They'd probably dig it back out. But back then, there must have been a good reason for it. So I miss that piece of it. My favorite hole, though, always on that golf course, was the second hole. That par 3 hole into the woods, I always thought was the most beautiful hole on that golf course because of that wonderful, wonderful view as you look inside that place there. And I told my son, I said, "Where do you see this hole?" Da, da, da. And then right through the woods there is where I live. So I just walked through a path right onto Manitou Road where my house was. So I would sneak out there all hours and play that second hole. So I learned to play golf on that course, not only when we had caddy day, but also sneaking out every night when things were closing down, and during, you know, this time of summer, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, it was a great time to do it. And that's always been my favorite hole on there. They also, I think, changed the 6th hole. Used to be a much longer hole, as I recall. And so they obviously had to come back to the whole course. And you know, now it's owned, it's a municipal golf course, it's owned by the town, and so I think things need to be a little different, so I'm okay with it. But I really do believe the golf course was nicer back then. I mean, I loved it. Then the final hole I loved was the one, and I don't remember, maybe 11, it was the one that went over that water. You know, you were right where the road was, and you had to go way over that water. It was a pretty darn long tee shot there, a par 4.
That would be the 12th hole. 11 is a long par 3, and then the 12th hole went over an inlet in the creek.
Well, this was a lot of water. This was like a big pond, though. It was pretty darn big, and it was a tough shot. And I remember so many people that I caddied for just dumped their balls in there. You know, they just couldn't cover this darn thing. There, and as I said, in that swampland, that's where, of course, we lost the most balls on it. And also, though, on that second hole, because anybody hooked it, anybody hit a slice, and that ball was gone too. You know, and then I'd sneak out there at night. I'd find golf balls all the time. And I was a great caddy because I knew where all those little nooks and crannies were on the second course because I did it for such a long time. And I think the caddy master's name was Sal. I'm pretty sure. Is that right? You imagine remembering that? Yeah, Sal Gilardi. Great guy.